Hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment. I'm Deborah Gilbert, your host, and as always, thanks so much for being here. I hope you enjoy the show. Well, we're going to highlight another wonderful theater. It's called The Kate, based in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and Brett Elliott, the executive director, and Elise Maragliano, the museum coordinator, are both my guests today. And Elise and Brett, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure to have you, and as we mentioned before, your third time here, so thank you.
You're welcome, of course. Glad to be here.
Okay, what I'd like to do is start the show off with the history of my guests. So Elise, why don't you tell us your background and let the viewer get to know you.
Okay, my name's Elise Maragliano, and I am currently the museum coordinator at the Katharine Hepburn Museum at the Kate. My background is a little unusual for running a museum about Katharine Hepburn. I am a Mesoamerican archaeologist. And have worked in museums for 20-something years now. My background is anthropology, so anthropology is the study of culture and the study of people. Working in museums and doing archaeology, I always see it as a way of trying to understand the stories behind artifacts, behind objects. And that's what museums do, and that's what we do at the Katharine Hepburn Museum, is we learn the story of Kate, but also the story of really 20th century America through the objects that we have in the museum.
And Brett, how about you and your background?
Sure, I've worked in theater pretty much as long as I can remember. I was previously at the Chicago Shakespeare Theater in a graduate program with DePaul University before I started my time at the Kate. I've been actually at the Kate for about just over 8 years now. And before that, I was here in Connecticut working at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center, right out of college originally. So a lot of theater, but I like it.
Has the Kate been a good next step for both of you as you have gone through your journey of your work history, your personal history? Is it a good next step for you? Elise?
I'm so delighted to be at the Kate. It's really fun at this point in my career to really have my hands in every aspect of a museum. In the past, I worked for the American Museum of Natural History for a decade, and it's a very large museum, and so the part that you do is a little tiny bit. But because we are a small organization, I get to do everything. I get to care for artifacts. I get to work on exhibitions. I get to work on programs for the museum. It's very fun.
And talk with patrons, of course.
And talk with patrons too, yes. I do tours for people who come in, for senior centers. So really it's for the camp groups that we have. So, you see the whole gamut, the whole range of people that come into the museum. So it is.
And Brett, how about you? How's your journey been getting to the Kate?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it is a great step for me, and I'm not sure I'm stepping further at the moment. I'm kind of settled in and really enjoying it. I came to the Kate as the interim executive director when the founding executive director departed, and I ended up with the full-time job and have been there growing it ever since. And it's been sort of fun to learn and watch the Kate grow. It has grown a lot in the last 8 years, and have a little bit of room to make mistakes here and there and figure it all out, because the arts are sort of an interesting thing as you figure out what works and what doesn't and what people want to see and how you're going to pay for it. So yeah.
Probably the viewer has never heard of what on earth is the Kate. So can you just take a moment, Brett, and tell us what it is, and also the building, the foundation, what's it all about?
Yeah, sure. Well, the Kate is now in its 13th year of operation. It is the Katharine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center, more affectionately known as the Kate. It is, of course, named after Katharine Hepburn, one of America's most iconic actresses. It is and was for many of the early years a performance venue for music. We've grown that to include more than just music, more theater, more comedy, opera, dance, film, other content on our stage. It's a 284-seat theater. And then we've always had a very, at the time, early days, small museum that honored Katharine Hepburn, really a gallery of sorts. And during the pandemic, we had the time and ability to completely renovate that space and make it twice the size that it was, and really tell a bold new version of Kate's story. And so we were able to do that. And our collections have continued to grow as well. So that's allowed us the artifacts to share with folks. But beyond that, the Kate also has a lot of education programs. We have a camps program. We have a public speaking class coming up. Clearly, I'm going to take it. I'm kidding. Several different aspects. It's a really unique place that works with a lot of different organizations around the community as well. We have a film partnership with the Florence Griswold Museum. Eastern Connecticut Ballet comes in and does Ballet Spectacular every year. Salt Marsh Opera is there. A lot of great community partners. So it's a really neat place. It's always busy, 275 plus shows a year, and a full-time staff of 4 and a part-time staff of 7, I believe, right now, plus our cleaners and bartenders and technicians and all the people that make the place happen. It's a busy place. Tell
us about the building itself. It has a very long history.
Sure. Elise might have to help me just a little bit, but it was built in 1911 as the Old Saybrook Music and Dramatic Arts Club. Is that the official title? It was a community building, also used as town hall. It was specifically town hall from the 1960s through the turn of the century, 2000, and then town hall moved to the building behind the Kate, and the building was vacant. And there were folks in town who wanted to see it returned to a theater, and so the money was raised, and there was a lot of things that went along with that, and town meetings and lots of pieces, but eventually it did work, and the Kate opened and has grown ever since. But it's a pretty significant historic building, and we've tried to embrace the original beauty of that space in the theater, the plush red seats and all the original woodwork, and it has not lost the quaint charm that came with that.
What are your thoughts about the building and working in it? How has it been for you?
So it's interesting because I have lived in the area for over a decade now, and so I've been to the Kate many times before I ever worked there, and I always thought it was a very vibrant place. It was very exciting that this was close to where I lived. So it's been funny then to now work there and kind of go into the building. I've been here, I think 8 or 9 months now. So I don't pinch myself every day when I walk in that, oh, that's right, I work here now. But for the first couple months, it was definitely exciting that this was now somewhere that I got to come to work at.
You both have been very kind to send us in some pictures. So why don't we take a moment, show them, and you can tell us what we're seeing. Sure. If we could roll the pictures, that would be great.
So
okay.
This is the one section of our museum. So the museum is essentially 2 sections. That's the entrance to the side that's about her career. So you can see on the right is a dress that was from the film Sea of Grass, which was a Spencer Tracy film from 1947. It's a beautiful, beautiful dress. That is actually not on exhibit right now. So we switch out the things that are on exhibit, partly to keep the museum fresh, but also because for conservation's sake, you can't just have it on display all the time. The lights would be damaging to it. And you also, all right, so then this is the other side of the museum, which focuses on her family and her time in Old Saybrook. So that case that you can see to the left is about Fenwick and about some of the things that she would do here in Old Saybrook.
I will note the bathtub very quickly. That is
yes.
one of the remaining.
The bathtub is great.
Right, one of the remaining pieces from the Hepburn home during the hurricane of '38. There are some great pictures of Kate sitting on the edge of that, and it has stayed in Old Saybrook all of these years and has made its way to the museum. So, yeah.
So this is the case that focuses on her family. So Katharine Hepburn came from a very large family. She was one of 6 kids. She was the second eldest. And there's wonderful things in this case, some letters that were part of a donation that was given to us by her grandniece, Schuyler Grant. And the letters, there's a letter in there that Katharine Hepburn wrote to her mother from the set of her first film. in 1932, where she's talking about how exciting it is to be working on these movies and how crazy the schedule is. There's also a lovely, tiny little letter to Santa Claus from 5-year-old Katharine Hepburn.
Sweet.
And this case is from the Fenwick or the Old Saybrook case. And that's just sort of a close-up there. Some of the things that you can see in there relate to her relationship with Howard Hughes. So her and Howard Hughes were a couple for 2 or 3 years. They were reportedly engaged to be married, though they never did in fact get married. We have some photographs that came from the Howard Hughes estate that were his photographs. And you also have a classic outfit of Katharine Hepburn's, which is that Lee denim jacket, that blue jacket. There's a photo of her wearing it. That was sort of her classic style.
There's the bathtub.
Yes, and that's a better shot there of the bathtub.
And the bicycle.
And her bicycle, yes. That section of the case really focuses on her athleticism. So she was always a very active, athletic person. She was raised that way by her parents. So her parents were pretty progressive for the early 1900s, and they raised their daughters the same as their sons. So she grew up climbing trees and swimming and diving and playing golf and playing tennis and bicycling and all of these great things. This is from one of the cases about her career. So that's really her early career. She started in theater, started out in Broadway in the late 20s, and then went out to Hollywood in 1932. And in the first 18 months she was in Hollywood, she was in 6 films. The third film that she made was called Morning Glory. It was her first Academy Award nomination and her first win for Best Actress. And that's a wider view of that same case, where we can see the dress on the right from Sea of Grass. There's also some Life magazines and a playbill from Philadelphia Story. And this is the case that focuses on her later career, which I always say her later career, but really that case goes from 1950 all the way up to 1994. So she had an incredibly long career, over 66 years.
Yes.
So the later career is 44 years in and of itself, which is pretty impressive. And this is, we have a special case that we're using for temporary exhibits. So when the museum first opened, we had an exhibit about pants, because you can't talk about Katharine Hepburn without talking about pants. She really was a style icon and a fashion icon, and really starting in the 1930s, wore pants on a regular basis and changed that model for what was acceptable women's wear. That case now, we have a special exhibit in with some of the costumes from a variety of films that are on loan to us from a costume collector. And we'll be switching that case out again for the summer. And this is another, the sort of opposite side. That's the pants case there that you can see with the red jacket. As I said, that's a different exhibit right now, and will be a different exhibit over the summer. But what you can see in the back of that photo, you see a set of chairs. Those are seats from the original theater. So as Brett said, this theater, the Kate, was really built in 1911 and has gone through a variety of different iterations. But it was initially a theater, and those are original seats that are a little different than the ones we have now. Those are a little narrow and they're wood. Ours are much comfier now.
They're very special to see when you walk by them.
But they're pretty amazing.
The theater sat almost 400 originally, and it now seats 284. So, people have changed, I suppose.
And this is a sort of reverse view of the museum. So you can now see the seats are just to the bottom left of the the photo, and you can look out and see there's the African Queen poster. On the right side of the photo, you see a TV screen and then a little statue. That is the Spirit of Katharine Hepburn Award. And I don't know if Brett wants to talk about that.
It's given each year to someone who embodies the bold, independent spirit of Kate. Often they've worked with Kate. Some of them admired her. It's gone to everyone from Dick Cavett to Glenn Close to Cher to Sam Waterston. Martina Navratilova received it this last year as a tennis great, and Kate was an avid tennis player. They were also friends, so it's been a really neat thing to see through the years. And there's a closer picture of the Spirit of Katharine Hepburn Award as well.
Yeah, and Cher receiving.
And Cher receiving it, yes, indeed. At all the photos? Might be. Oh, there you go. And there's the seats as well.
There are the chairs.
And that guitar, I should mention, Pure Prairie League was our very first band to play on stage in 2009. They also played our 10th anniversary on the actual 10th anniversary date, and they signed that guitar and gave it to us. So we have a pretty fun connection with Pure Prairie League, so everyone go out and listen to the song Amy.
Okay, well, that's our last picture. Why don't we hold that thought? I'm Deborah Gilbert. You are tuned into Arts and Entertainment. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
You matter.
You matter.
And your words matter too.
Your words matter.
What you say in the hallways at school or in the student section at a game matters.
Words can be hurtful.
Words can be offensive.
Words can leave scars.
Words can also inspire.
Support and uplift.
You and your words.
Are they both important?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide, it provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
And welcome back to Arts and Entertainment. I am Deborah Gilbert, your host. And again, as always, thanks so much for being here. What I mentioned during the break is the website. I always like to talk about the website because people will like to know more about you. They may not be able to physically get to you, but they'd like to know more about you and how they can come or get involved. So why don't we talk about it? What will the viewer find when they get there?
Yeah, at our website, sure. thekate.org is our website. Important to start there. As a performing arts center, you'll certainly find the ability to explore all of our shows and purchase tickets. You'll also find more information about our museum and hours of operation, of course. And I should mention that is Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 4. Museum is open regular hours and the box office, but also 1 hour before every show. And with 275 shows in the last year, that means we're open quite often, and other hours. There's also on the website lots of other great information in the ability to volunteer at the Kate. Our ushers and many of the folks who support us in lots of different capacities in the theater are volunteers. You can sign up to volunteer. And there's just great information about the Kate and all of the other things that we offer, whether it's our Kate's Camp for kids or the public speaking classes or other things that we have going on. Did I miss anything?
I would say that on the museum page on the website, there's also a virtual exhibit that Brett and some of the other people at the Kate worked on during the pandemic that is up, as well as some previous museum programming is available through that as well.
We have a lot of performers that watch this channel because it does deal with arts and entertainment and culture. Do people audition to be able to present themselves to you, or are they acts that are coming through the theater, perform, and then leave?
Yeah, it is primarily artists that are routing through the area, and they were last in New York. They're with us on the next night. They're in Boston on the following. But we do have a lot of local entertainers that we work with as well, or artists. A lot of them are through community partnerships, like having the Chestnut Hill Concert Series at the Kate, or Eastern Connecticut Ballet, or other companies. But Laura Herskovich, who's a state troubadour, has been at the Kate several times, and there's other great Connecticut-based artists who join us over the course of each year as well. A lot of things come through agencies, but our contact information is always on the website. If somebody wants to pitch something, it's always there. We're always listening for sure.
Children, internships, any kind of programs that somebody can get involved with or have fun with and be there at the Kate?
Yeah, so internships, we did have internships running prior to the pandemic. We are in the process of looking to bring those back. When we renovated the museum, we lost some space that was staff and storage space, and so we have a little bit of a space crunch going on right now, so that has put a little bit of a pause on internships at the moment, though we do look forward to bringing those back as soon as we can. However, there are different ways to work with us. If it's a high school intern who just wants exposure to whether it be the technical side of theater or another part of our operation, we're always willing to talk with them and have them spend some time with us in certain instances to gain that experience. We're a community resource for sure.
Conservation, you mentioned. Some of the items that are there in the museum, you just think that they're there and that there's no problem. Tell us a little bit about how you keep things alive and well in there for a long period of time.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's always important to realize that in any museum, you only see a portion of the collection on display. There's always far more that's not on display. And so we're working very hard to professionalize our storage capacity. So we just installed, we just had a company install this museum shelving that then we can go through and rehouse everything using all of the proper preservation supplies. So you have to make sure that everything is stored in acid-free tissue and boxes, and that things are kept at a constant temperature and constant relative humidity, so that you don't have this continued deterioration. So some of our costumes are potentially 70, 80 years old, which can lead to things breaking down. So we have to make sure that we care for them in a proper way so that they last as long as possible.
Another good question is, where do you get the items that you put in the museum? Are they donated? Is there a time frame that someone will lend them to you? Do you buy them? How does it happen?
All of the above.
Okay.
So we have, people are donating things all of the time, which is wonderful. We've gotten donations from Katharine Hepburn's family. We get donations from the public. There's a lot of people out there who have loved Katharine Hepburn for a very long time and collected many, many things. So we do get donations from the public. We also have an acquisition fund that we use to purchase items. So things come up at auction all the time. We just purchased a pair of boots that Katharine Hepburn wore in the African Queen at auction, which was really exciting. That was a really fun day when I got to open that package.
I bet.
And then we do also have things on loan. So we have been trying to figure out where some of her costumes have gone, and we've compiled a list of people that we know have certain costumes. Right now we have some costumes on loan from a private collector. We're also working with Kent State University Museum, which is where the majority of her clothing and costumes went to. They were donated there by the estate. We're working with them to try to bring pieces to the Kate. So it's
You're busy.
Got our fingers in a lot of pots.
Exactly. The Kate and Old Saybrook, Brett, has probably created a very nice relationship between the two of them. How is it going? Has it been a good relationship? I would think so. You've mentioned it. How is it going?
Yeah, our relationship with the town and our impact on the town is all incredibly positive. I'm sure there are viewers watching that remember when it might have been a little controversial in the very early days when they were trying to figure out what to do with that building, and there was talk of it becoming this center. I'd like to think that over the years, watching the center grow and the economic impact that it has provided, the people that it has brought to town, the artists that it has brought to town, and what it has meant to the area has become, has always been, but has become even more so a really positive experience for everyone. It's a really great public-private partnership for sure, and really has revitalized a lot of the Old Saybrook and Main Street. Certainly, it was a strong community before, and would have been without the Kate, but it's added something really special to the community as a really neat resource.
As we start to run out of time, any closing thought to the viewer that you would like them to know?
Sure. Well,
up to either of you.
Well, okay, so we have a lot of programming, and I always like to suggest to people that they check out our website, and if they like a certain kind of music or a certain type of entertainment, look for something and come in and check it out, because there's so many neat things that come through, and I often, our volunteers as well, that our ushers will say things like, oh, I never would have come to that show, but it was so incredible, and so I always encourage people to check out all the things that are happening and test out something new.
Briefly, Elise, any closing thoughts?
Well, a great opportunity is this Sunday. We have a free showing of the film Sydney. It's a documentary about Sidney Poitier that Apple TV made, and we are showing it for free. So it's a good opportunity to get to the Cade if you haven't been there.
And more in the spring, an event with Ernest Thompson, who was the playwright for On Golden Pond and then the screenwriter, and then also an event on the Hurricane of '38.
Yes,
there you go.
Some of the museum programming.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
And thanks so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Deborah Gilbert. You have been tuned in to Arts and Entertainment. Hope you have a super day. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.